In the words of a all-time great philosopher, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad, Kamaru Usman. Dricus Du Plessis just absolutely beat the brakes off of Kamaru Usman, man. And I know that a lot of people, they're kind of coping in a way, the big Usman fans. They're like, well, wait a minute. Marty started to pour it on late. He was starting to battle back into the fight. And to be fair, I mean, Usman did show a ton of grit. He got rattled, got rocked several times in this fight, and never backed down. And that's the thing about Kamaru, man. And that's why I thought this fight would go the full 25 minutes, because both of these dudes are dogs. They're very durable. They're very tough. And they are not going to look for a way out, because there were numerous times I thought DDP was going to put Kamaru out. And the fact that Usman was still able to make it the full 25, like, absolutely insane. But it's going to be bad, Kamaru. This was a tough one, man, for Usman. This was a tough one. So we got a lot to discuss, because this was a very entertaining card. We had a lot of really good fights on here. The main event, like, that was the best version of Dricus Du Plessis that I feel like we have seen. So we got a lot to discuss. Without further ado, man, let's hop right into this thing, because Dricus Du Plessis, right? And by the way, we went 10-2 on this card, so we did pretty good in terms of predictions. And starting with the main event, we picked DDP by decision. Now, granted, I didn't think it would be completely one-sided like this. I knew that there was obviously the chance, and the first time, you know, when I reacted to this fight being announced, I was like, look, it just feels like this is going to be a tough night at the office for Marty Usman. But the reality is, as we started to get closer to the fight, I'm like, you know what? We've seen what Elliot, Coria, and Justin Gaethje, when they fought at the White House, we saw what Justin Gaethje was able to do. We know that Trevor Whitman is a wizard. We know that Henry Hooft is also a wizard as well. So there's all these great striking minds around Kamaru, to where even though he's almost 40 years of age, maybe he can come in here with some sort of crafty game plan, footwork, angles, fighting behind the jab, which he was doing in this fight. The reality is, there was nothing that Kamaru could do to win this fight. That's the reality. And I know that Kamaru is making a ton of excuses right now, which I find very disappointing. Sore loser. Oh, it was the thumb in the eye, and I was seeing two big boys out there. Dude, shut up. Shut up, man. Shut up. That was a punch. And unfortunately for Usman, it landed in an awkward way, to where it was like the bottom end of like the knuckle and the thumb, at least it looked like for DDP. It's a punch. And the thing is Dricus Du Plessis got better. And is it crazy to say that DDP now may have the solutions for good grapplers in this weight class? I'm not saying that he goes out there and beats Khamzat in a rematch, but this was a refined version of DDP. Like, I don't think a lot of people understand what we just saw from Dricus, because there's people out there, and there were so many people that thought Usman was going to win this fight, by the way. So don't change your tune now of, oh, well, Usman's just old. No, Usman looked pretty good. In moments, he looked good. And he started to battle back into the fight. It felt like DDP was starting to slow down a little bit later on. But the reality is Dricus was so technical in this fight. It was the most technical I feel like we've seen DDP fight in his entire career, especially since being in the UFC. He was patient. He wasn't always just, you know, Superman charging into range and getting off balance and tripping and bumbling all over the place. Like, we did see some of the Looney Tunes now, right? We saw the whoop, 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 where he's kind of slipping around. And, you know, we saw some of that funkiness from Dricus, but it was refined. It was refined, and that's why I ultimately trusted Dricus in this fight, because as much as, you know, him and his coach, Mornay Fisser, they were making excuses, and I didn't really like the way that they handled the Khamzat loss. If you thought that DDP was going to be away for almost a year's time and come back and allow Usman to take him down at will and dominate him in the fashion that Khamzat did, you must have lost your mind. Because DDP, I've said this for a long time, this is a dude that strikes me as like we know DDP's not going to give up on himself. We know that he's going to do whatever it takes by any means necessary. And if they have to make adjustments, we've seen before that DDP and his camp do a great job. Perfect example. Look at the first Strickland fight compared to the second Strickland fight. Look at how DDP was able to solve the jab. Look at the approach that he had in the rematch, to where he absolutely dominated Sean. And that's the thing. Dricus can make great adjustments. His camp can make great adjustments. And I thought Usman would have a lot more success wrestling, especially early on. I didn't think he would be able to dominate DDP on the deck and do what Khamzat did. And that's what it really came down to for me, was there's no way Usman's going to replicate what Chimaev did. Zero chance. Considering that Khamzat is in the prime of his career, is far more explosive than Usman at this point in time, and he's got a submission threat to where Usman doesn't, you know? So this was a refined version of DDP. He was technical, he was picking his shots well, and they were so prepared. And that's what I've said about Dricus for a long time, is he comes in with such a great game plan, and he sticks to it. He would go southpaw, and every time Usman, because I've always said I really like how Usman does like the, where he kind of waves his hands out and waves in like he's going to kind of, go for a single leg, try to grab that lead leg, and he had DDP biting pretty hard on that as the fight started to progress, but he wasn't doing a whole lot off of that feint. And then so what DDP did to kind of negate, Usman trying to level change and some of those things was going southpaw and throwing the knees right up the center line, which we talked about in my breakdown. I was like, look, if I'm DDP, I'm looking at the Leon Edwards fight, I'm looking at the Buckley fight, and Usman's had problems with guys throwing shots up the center line. He doesn't move his head that well. And whenever he goes to level change, boom, DDP would just throw the knee right up the middle. He was loading and feinting an uppercut to make Kamaru, kind of hesitate with level changes. He was ripping kicks to the leg, to the body, and then bringing him upstairs and wobbled Usman numerous times. Someone on social media, I don't remember who it was. This was foul, man, said, somebody get Usman a cane. That was crazy, man. Crazy work right there. But this was the best version of Dricus that we've seen. Now, I did feel like he slowed down a little bit in the fight. I don't know. It's hard to tell with Dricus because he's kind of huffing and puffing, and then he explodes into range, but he was methodical. He was picking his shots, and the thing about Dricus, there's just so much to deal with. So much to deal with where Usman's being tactical and throwing the jab and trying to be all, this and that. I'm doing this. Dricus doesn't care about any of that. He's just like, I'm going to throw, and there's really no rhythm. There's no patterns to pick up on. Where a guy like Usman, there's patterns, right? He's throwing the jab to the body, throwing it upstairs, trying to find the right hand, and that's really the weapon that had me worried for DDP in this fight was the right hand of Usman. We've seen him hurt many guys with that. We saw him put Jorge Masvidal away big time with the right hand. So whenever Usman commits and steps in with the right hand behind it, he absolutely has the power to be able to put just about anybody away. So listen, hats off to DDP. I thought that he would win this fight. I didn't think that it would be that easy, man. Like, I know Usman, he was very, very tough. He hung in there. He got rattled and wobbled several times. And I thought Dricus at some point was going to put him away. That's how the fight started to look. And then Usman just started walking him down and letting shots go. So I think it was 50-45 on one card and then 49-46. I could see it either way. I could see how you could give Usman, I believe, probably the fifth round in there, but outside of that, it was all DDP. He was landing the bigger shots. You could see just the difference, and what really surprised me was the speed comparison, considering that I know Usman's a little bit older, but him, carrying that lighter man skill moving up to 185, I figured that he would be a little bit quicker, and DDP was so much faster than him. So much faster. DDP would land a combination, and Usman, it was like he didn't even know it hit him. So, brilliant game plan from DDP. Was using a lot more footwork, cutting good angles instead of just charging into range all the time. We saw him blitz every now and then, but it was a lot more calculated, a lot more measured to where he really fought methodical, and I thought that was impressive to see from Dricus. The kicks were nasty, and that's what I said coming into this, was if you go back and watch Dricus's fights with, Izzy, Strickland, since he's been in the UFC really, but those most recent fights to where he was in back and forth striking battles, his kicks are lightning fast, and that question mark kick is nasty. It's nasty. So did all the right things. Shots up the center line. If you know a guy's going to want a level change or he's going to kind of dip his levels down and look to explode in, those shots right up the middle are going to be there all day long. Leon Edwards was landing knees at will on Usman. Buckley was landing good uppercuts, shots up the center line. DDP and his team did his homework. They did their homework. They came in very prepared, and this was a great performance by Dricus, and he was so calculated, which was what I found so impressive, because we talk about, the stumbling and bumbling, DDP by flying and falling piano, right? DDP by opponents slipping on banana peel and, hitting their head, and then the little birdie going around their head. But the reality is Dricus was poised, and he was giving Kamaru so many things to think about, and I've said this before, I just don't believe over the course of 25 minutes, outside of taking Dricus down and neutralizing him like what Khamzat did, I don't think you're beating DDP because he just does too much. There's too much coming at you. Combinations, power, kicks, knees. There's just so much that Dricus is throwing at you. He throws the kitchen sink at you. Then he's constantly mixing stuff up. Constantly. So this was a great performance by Dricus. Beat the brakes off of a, former champion at welterweight. I've been saying I think Usman is the second greatest welterweight of all time behind the great George St. Pierre. And, it's at the point in time where it's like, what does Usman do from here? Because one of the big reasons I feel like Usman's being a little bit salty in his loss is considering, listen, we've never seen Kamaru lose like this, right? I know that he was winning the fight against Leon, got caught by the head kick. It's like, okay, well, I was winning, but then I got caught. He's never been beaten pillar to post like this that I can remember, right? Never. The Hamza fight was close. The trilogy with Leon Edwards, even though Leon won, it was rather competitive. This wasn't that competitive, man. It wasn't, and the commentary was being a little bit biased and kind of, giving Kamaru maybe a little bit more than what was going on in the mid to later rounds. And yeah, Usman started to build back. He was getting rocked around, and he's like, F it, I just got to go forward and try to make something happen. And you can't question the grit and heart of Usman. Like, he was trying, man. But the reality is it just wasn't enough. DDP was way bigger than him, way faster, and just a much better all-around striker. There was so much that Dricus was throwing at him. The clubbing right hand around the guard, the jab down the middle. He went southpaw, feinted a backhand, and stepped in with the right hand. It's like, just the combinations from Dricus are difficult to deal with. There was just much more of an effect when DDP was landing than when Usman did. So I thought Usman would have more success wrestling. He tried to get a couple takedowns. DDP got right back up, so it's good to see those improvements in his game, and that's what I figured coming into this. With almost a year away, you know that Dricus and team were drilling the heck out of the defensive grappling because there was kind of a bad narrative coming into this fight that Dricus just can't wrestle. He's not a good grappler. That couldn't be further from the truth. He is a good grappler. We've seen it before. We've seen him take down Sean Strickland, which now we're realizing how hard that is to do, right? So DDP's a good grappler. He's got good submissions. On the feet, his striking, it's a little funky at times, but it's really, really effective. And in this fight, I think it's the most technical it's looked. So for Usman, it's just kind of like, well, where do you go from here? Right? He's not going back down. I mean, if he goes down to 170, like, he's not getting the belt at 170, man. 170 is a freaking shark tank in there. There are so many good and dangerous young fighters that are so complete, got nasty strikers. Like, I just feel like that's a tough route for Usman to go, especially at almost 40 years of age in that middleweight. I mean, he got beat up by DDP. And I know DDP's a former champion, and he's a guy that's at the top of this division, but it's just hard matchups all across the board for Usman, whether it's 185, 170. 170 is even tougher in my opinion, but at the top of 185, it's dangerous, man. It's very, very dangerous. So it's not to say that it's the end of the road for Usman, but I don't think he's becoming champ again. Not at 170 for sure, and at 185, I don't think so. So at this point, it's like, well, what's Usman doing? Is he just taking big fights? Is he just kind of fighting, for a paycheck? Because at this point, it just kind of feels like maybe Usman, maybe, I don't know, maybe he wants to go out there one more time, get a win, and ride off into the sunset that way. But afterwards, he's like, man, I still got it. And he was like surprised that he lost or something, surprised at the scorecard. So just some delusion from Usman. I know he was getting, banged around in there, and it's right after the fight. Emotions are high. I get it. He got beat up in this fight. And like I said before, this was new territory for Kamaru because he had never lost a fight like this where he just kind of gotten beaten pillar to post and out-damaged and outscored all across the board. So great performance by DDP. What would I like to see for Dricus next? I mean, I think he's earned a title shot. And Nasruddin Imavov should be next. It should be Strickland versus Imavov too. Nasruddin's earned it. It's a fun stylistic matchup, running that one back. The first fight was really good. I think the rematch will be just as good, if not better, right? Both Strickland and Imavov have gotten a lot better, but the reality is people are going to say, well, what has Dricus done to earn a title shot? He defended the belt a few times. Sean Strickland has no title defenses, and neither did Chimaev, and people are talking about running that one back, right? Remember when Strickland lost to DDP? Even though I did think Strickland kind of won that fight the first time, he went out there and beat a mid-ranked Paulo Costa and then got another title shot. So DDP lost the belt, comes back out here. It's just a bad stylistic matchup for him against Hamza. Comes out here and takes a risk, right? Because imagine if Usman wins this fight. What are the conversations? Give Usman a title shot. He's got history with Sean Strickland, right? If Hamzat and Strickland run it back and Hamzat gets the belt back, well, Usman's got history with Hamzat. He took him on short notice, and it was a competitive fight. So you could see how if Kamaru won, there would have been this huge push for him to get a title shot at 185. And I would be understanding, I would get it after Imavov, of course, right? Imavov's earned it, man. But the reality is DDP, to me, he's earned a title shot off this. He defended the belt a couple times. He's beaten Strickland, Adesanya, and he was a great champion. He was active, showing up whenever the UFC needed him. Okay, so he ran into the buzzsaw in Chimaev. Bad matchup for him. If you run it back, is it more competitive? I think it might be. So the time away, it served DDP well. It depends on how active he wants to be, because if he wants to wait for Imavov versus Strickland, like that might not happen until closer to the end of the year. So he'd be looking at returning in early 2027 or something like that. So I would rather see DDP be active, considering he's been out for a year. And if he's not going to get that title shot right away, I feel like him and Brendan Allen could run it, right? Brendan Allen just took a big risk. He wanted to stay active and fought Edmund Shabazian. These two don't like each other. DDP and Allen run it. Some bad blood. That'd be a great fight night main event, or a co-main event, 5-rounder on a number card or something. That'd be a great fight. That'd be interesting. That'd be a really good fight. I think DDP would work Brendan Allen, but it'd be interesting. It'd be a fun buildup. So DDP earned a title shot. The problem is at middleweight, Imavov's next. Maybe they run the Hamzat rematch, so it's a little bit crowded at the top, but DDP, to me, when you defend the belt like that, like people were talking about, well, Strickland should have gotten a shot. Well, keep the same energy for Dricus. So this was a risk for DDP, because if he lost, it would have been kind of a crushing blow in a way, because Usman could have just catapulted himself right into title conversations at 185. It was a big win by DDP, a dominant win, beat the brakes off of Usman, man. I know Usman battled back late and started to have more success and was biting down on the mouthpiece and doing some good kicks, doing some good things, ripping kicks to the body, fighting behind the jab. But at the end of the day, man, like, this was a great performance by Dricus. Great performance. He was timing his shots well, threatening shots up the center line. His kicks were on point. Takedown defense looked great. Shout out to DDP and his team and Coach Mornay Fisser, because they had him very prepared, and in the time away, they clearly improved what they needed to work on. This was a great, and I feel like there was pressure for Dricus coming into this fight, considering what happened in the last one. Like, could you imagine if Usman just came out here and blanketed him for a long period of time? So this was good stuff, man. So I don't know if these stats are right, but you could just see, like, DDP was giving him so many things to think about. Those kicks to the head, right? Just kept whipping him up out of nowhere, was attacking the legs. Usman was getting the leg out of the way, was ripping to the body, right? It was just a great performance by DDP. Masterclass all around for Usman. You're sticking around. I don't think he's becoming champ. So at that point, you're just kind of fighting for money, or I feel like he should retire. He's almost 40 years of age, man. And we've never seen him lose like this, where he took so much damage. So DDP, wait for the title shot, or I like the fight against Brendan Allen with the bad blood there. And I feel like that's a very winnable fight for DDP. And that would be a fun one that the fans would like to see. Great performance by Dricus, man. Jared Cannonier versus Christian Leroy Duncan. Man, I don't know what it is about CLD, but listen, I like CLD. I've been for a while on the CLD train, and I've been kind of talking him up, saying, man, he's super explosive, he's very dynamic, he's hard to deal with, and all of those things are true, but it's like the weirdest thing where I've been leaving these CLD fights recently going like, I feel underwhelmed for some reason. Does anybody else feel like that? Am I being too, like, critical of Christian? Like, I'm, like, expecting too much of this guy? I don't know. Like, but to go out there and have early success against Roman Dolidze, who I don't think is particularly good. I know his ground game is solid, but on the feet, he's terrible. And CLD was, like, messing around and allowed Dolidze to work back into the fight, to where it was like, what's going on here? And I expected him to put Dolidze away. And I know Dolidze is durable, but still. CLD is an incredible athlete, man. I think he was a basketball player or something. Like, you can see it in his game. He's springing around. He's very explosive, very dynamic. Right? And he was just pinging Jared Cannonier up all night long. And to be fair, I thought he was going to knock him out in round 2 with that spinning elbow, right? And we picked CLD. I thought he was going to get the second round KO, and it almost happened. I don't know how Jared Cannonier ate that spinning elbow, but we've seen from Jared, he's 42 years of age, and that's the reality. I couldn't pick him in this fight, man. Jared's he's not the same guy. I know he's still durable. I know he's crafty in there, but he's very much slowed down. And you could see it in this fight. He was just at such a huge disadvantage with the speed. But I don't know. I expected Christian to finish a 42-year-old Cannonier. To me, that is just super slow and just not the same guy. And I mean that with respect, because I like Cannonier, man. I really like Jared. But that's the reality. He's not the same fighter. He's really slowed down, really, really slowed down. And you could see it in this fight. I know he had some success, pushing CLD up against the fence, getting some takedowns, but, man, he was getting touched up at range bad. And then CLD was kind of hunting for the finish, and I was worried that he was going to kind of gas himself out, because that is something that worries me with Christian is the gas tank, because he's so dynamic and all these explosive movements, and those spinning attacks are great if they land, but if he goes against a good grappler at the top of the weight class, they're just going to take his back and probably put him in a bad position. So that's something that he's got to be wary of moving forward. But on the feet, man, CLD's a problem for just about everybody. He's super fast, super explosive, those oblique kicks, the side kicks, the spinning attacks. His jab is money when he's letting it go, and He's just fast and explosive all across the board. I don't know what it is. I feel like just my expectations for Christian were to finish an older, sloppy Dolidze who offers not much on the feet other than a spammy overhand right, and then a 42-year-old Cannonier who to me is just slow and not the same guy. I just felt like this was the perfect opportunity for CLD to get like a highlight KO in the co-main event and kind of make a statement to where we're like, man, give him this huge fight next. Which I still think like they're good. They're still good performances. Like they're not bad performances. I don't know. I was expecting like more domination / finishes in these back-to-back fights because when you look at his style, that's what I think of as an explosive guy that's going to be finishing people and getting these highlight reel KOs, which we've seen, but against much lower level of opposition. And now that the competition has gotten a little steeper, now that he's fighting ranked middleweights that have kind of been there, done that, like a Dolidze and Cannonier, we're seeing the finishes kind of the finishing potential not necessarily be the same. So it's not to say that he can't finish some of the guys in the top, but I don't know, man. I'm just a little bit bummed out that we didn't see in these back-to-back fights. I feel like Leroy Duncan just kind of left some things out there to where it's like, man, if you just did this or made this adjustment, I feel like he could have found the finish. But obviously, Cannonier's dog tough. You know, those shots that Leroy was landing, those spinning elbows, like they're going to put most people away, and they have put most people away. So Cannonier's a dog. He's at the point now where it's like, kind of what's he fighting for? You know, a little bit older, taking a bunch of damage, and these guys coming up, man, they're fast, they're explosive, and on the feet, CLD is going to be a problem for a lot of guys, and his takedown defense has gotten much better, and seems like his gas tank has gotten a little bit better as well. So great performance by CLD. I just expected a finish in this one, so maybe that's why I'm being a little bit more critical. But no doubt, CLD's fun to watch. I like his style, and he's a problem for a lot of guys in this weight class. Chase Hopper versus Mitch Ramirez. Listen, there were a lot of people that were doubting Chase Hopper coming into this one. And here's the reality. I had said in my breakdown, the reason that I picked Chase to win this fight by a submission, I thought it would happen a little bit later into the fight in like round 2 or something. But the only reason, in my opinion, that you were thinking about picking Mitch Ramirez is because you just gave up on Chase Hooper. Because stylistically, there's just no way that Mitch Ramirez, to me, is a better fighter than Chase Hooper. Like, he has nothing for Chase on the ground. And even on the feet, like, Chase Hooper's striking is not the best. I know he's kind of rangy and kind of just throws those kicks because he's not worried about getting taken down because his jiu-jitsu is good. And we saw him clip Slava claws, so it's like he has a little bit of power. But Mitch Ramirez just, I'm sorry, he's not that good. He just isn't. He's plotty. He walks forward. He's flat-footed. He tries to spam these big winging punches. That ain't going to work against Chase Hooper. And Lance Gibson and Alexander Hernandez, that's why people were out on Chase Hooper. Those guys, and as I said, they both beat Mitch Ramirez pretty handedly. So, Chase Hooper back in the win column, man. I figured he would win this fight. I thought he'd make it look pretty easy. Ramirez's best shot would be to pressure him, land a big shot early. If that didn't happen, he was going to get dominated on the ground. Hooper would find a way to get the fight to the floor, and he's significantly better than Ramirez on the ground. And I know people were like, well, wait a minute. Ramirez was able to go the distance with Thiago Moises. In terms of MMA and in the jiu-jitsu that we've seen in the octagon, Chase Hooper is much better than Moises in that area. Mitch Ramirez had not fought somebody with the jiu-jitsu skills and the submission ability and this kind of frame that Hopper brings to the table, right? So I'm happy Chase Hooper was able to get the win, and it felt like the UFC was kind of tossing him a bone here, giving him a layup. And he just had to get two hands on the ball and dunk it in, and that's what happened here. Easy win for Chase Hooper. The only reason I thought Ramirez had a chance was given the fact that, Hooper's dropped 2 in a row. But again, look at those losses. Hernandez has looked pretty good, and Lance Gibson, he had a competitive fight with Bobby Green. So not like he lost to bad fighters. So good win by Chase Hooper. Happy to see him back in the win column. A lot of people were sleeping on Chase in this one, man. Tabitha Ricci, Fatima Kline. Fatima Kline is going to be the champion of this weight class. She's going to be the strawweight champion. Whoa, bro, forgot the weight class. Look, Fatima Kline's going to be the strawweight champ. That's the reality. And if you look at the weight class, who's the champ? Is it Dern and that fight that's coming up, Dern and Robertson? You mean to tell me that either one of those women beat Fatima Kline? Like, I think right now you could throw Fatima Kline in there. She beats the brakes off of Dern and Robertson. Like, I'm going to say it, man. Like, I think Kline is pretty much like the Petr Yan of WMMA. Like, when we talk about Petr Yan, we're like, oh, the art form that he brings to the table. It's the good technique, the movement. He's so good in, like, every single area of martial arts. Is that not Kline? Like, think about all the fighters that Tabitha Ricci has been in there with. She's been in there with the who's who of this division. She's been in there with Virna Jandiroba, who people are looking at as one of the best grapplers we've seen in this weight class. Did Fatima Kline not dominate Ricci in that area more than Jandiroba did? Look at Yan Xiaonan on the feet against Tabitha Ricci. Look what Fatima Kline was able to do on the feet. Like, Fatima literally beat Tabitha Ricci in every aspect of MMA. And I know that there's going to be people that say, well, Ricci's overrated. And there were people giving me flack for saying that Fatima was going to make this look easy and beat Ricci in every single aspect of MMA. Grappling, striking, all of it. She's good everywhere. Good from range, good in the clinch, good in boxing range, and good on the ground. She's an elite overall fighter. She's the new generation of MMA fighter, man. And I think that she's one of the most complete and skilled women's fighters that we've seen. I'm serious. Whoa, Glaze Fatima, man. I'm just saying. Seriously. Like, look at all of the young up-and-coming fighters in the UFC, even men's fighters. Look at the technique that she brings to the table. The technique is tight, man. Everything comes from where it's supposed to. Good, long, straight shots. She's got a crazy reach. And when you have the ability, like, what's Dern going to do to her? She's not going to take her down and keep her there, right? Training with Blanchfield, like, Kline is good, man. She is really, 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 really good. She's better than most fighters in this weight class, if not all, when it comes to the all-around striking. And then the fact that her ground game is this good, she's kind of reminds me of the Piotr Jan, man. It's like art out there, and she's so well-rounded and so skilled. I think she's one of the most skilled WMMA fighters that we've seen. We've never seen anybody. We've seen Tabitha lose when she fights, the top fighters in this weight class. We've never seen somebody just beat the brakes off of her in every aspect of MMA. Because if you were to say, well, what's Ricci's advantage coming into this fight? Maybe power in the clinch, the grappling. Had no advantages in this fight, which is pretty crazy to see. A young up-and-coming fighter that is this good and can set up the high kick, can put you away, and she brings a danger factor that we don't often see in WMMA. I'm just being honest. It's not something that we often see, right? When you fight, Alexa Grasso, Manon Furo, right? There's very few that offer like a scary danger factor. Against Fatima Kline, there's a danger factor at all times. It was a great performance, and I think she should get a title shot next, honestly. Like, I think she's better than Robertson and Dern both. So I think she'll be the champion at some point. I'm not picking against Fatima Kline, most likely, in the UFC, at least anytime soon. She looks great, man. Tommy McMillen versus Alberto Montes. So first off, people keep commenting that when I shave the face, I look like Tommy McMillen. Listen, jokes aside, Tommy McMillen is a freaking dog, man. And I thought that this fight was going to go the full 15. Now, I did see a scenario to where if there's an early stoppage, it would be Montes getting McMillen into a front headlock position, locking in a Darce or an Anaconda or something like that. Or Tommy McMillen, if he got a stoppage, it would be later in the fight by melting Alberto Montes. The reality is, people are trying to play that game of Montes just isn't who we thought he was, man. No, that's a cop-out. Alberto Montes is a dang good fighter, but you wouldn't have known it last night. Because Tommy McMillen basically set a record, right? For the amount of strikes that he landed, the output is I think that's the actual right number too, actually. 255 total strikes. This dude, Tommy McMillen, and it's funny how he started talking about the whole Diaz thing and whatever, because I literally was texting Mike Jack last night about this. He literally is Diaz-esque, right? It's not the same style with the hands up and whatever, but he's a tornado of output, of durability, of pressure, and just chaos. And even if you're more technical than him, like I feel like Alberto Montes is the more technically sound fundamental fighter. But when you get a guy like Tommy that's just a dog and about it, man, it's going to be hard to deal with. You have to really, really have a good strategy and plan to deal with a guy like this. And I know people are saying, well, McMillan's striking defense isn't that good. And I will say, I think that is the biggest hole in his game. But, man, his striking looked a little bit better. He was working the body well. He's got a good jab, fires the straight right hand behind it. And his background is grappling. So it's not like you're just going to easily take him down. And we saw David Magoyan, the Arman Sarukian protege, right? He's a really good wrestler, put McMillan in a crazy submission, and McMillan somehow was able to get out of it, twisting and turning, man. Like McMillan he's just got traits that you can't teach. He's a dog, and he's got zero quit in him whatsoever, and he's super entertaining. Like, there's like people like rooting on this dude's downfall, and it's just weird, man. Like, why? This guy's literally in every fight that we've seen from him, the DWCS fight, his debut, and now this fight, every single fight is must-see TV. And he did all the right things. He's marketing himself. He's promoting himself. He's talking the talk, walking the walk. You have to be afraid to do stuff like that in order to put yourself on in this game, man. You're seeing it. Look at Josh Hokett. Even though with Hokett it's a little cringe and stuff, like I think that that's annoying, but it gets you places. That's the reality. It gets you places. And after the fight, Michael Chiesa and Chris Weidman were talking about, throwing him right into the Shark Tank, giving him a back-end ranked guy in the weight class. And at first I'm like, it's too much too soon. But if you start to look at some of the names at the back end in this division, you mean that Tommy McMillen couldn't break and fold David Onama? I think he could. And David Onama is like the number 14 ranked dude in this weight class. He could absolutely beat David Onama. 100%. I would pick McMillen to easily beat Onama. He would walk him down and break him. You have to be, if you're going to fight Tommy McMillen, the defense, he's got all these openings. Yeah, it's true, but you better knock him out and you better choke him unconscious, because if you don't, this dude's not going away. He's not going away. It's going to be punches and bunches. He's going to walk you down with crazy pressure, and he's got a big frame for this weight class too. He's a very, very difficult guy to deal with, man. Very, very difficult guy to deal with, and the shot selection is what we saw in this fight that really impressed me. Going upstairs, ripping to the body when he put Alberto Montes along, the octagon side, was just battering him, man, and I love the knee up the middle. And I was saying, listen, training with Sean O'Malley, Tim Welch, McMillen's young. He's only going to get better. I'm a big Tommy McMillen fan. Tommy Gunz, I'm a big Tommy McMillen fan, right? We picked him on the Contender Series. We picked him since he came into the UFC. And I was even saying, look, I even was wrestling with the idea of picking Montes to win this fight. Because I've been saying, listen, when McMillen fights someone that's really game and technical and can finish you in different areas, whether it's the striking or the grappling, like that's where we're going to see McMillen's defense get exploited. The reality is he's dog tough. He's he's just an animal that's going to move forward and put a hellacious pace on you and take you to the deep end, and most guys are not going to be able to swim. That's the reality. Now, I know at the top of the weight class, sure, is he like beating some of the elite guys? Like probably not, at least not right now. But what worries me about throwing him into the back end of the rankings is, as fun as it would be like this crazy moment. Like, remember when Hamzat fought Gilbert Burns and it was like, is this dude as good as we think? I'm not saying that McMillen's Hamzat. You get my point. When a guy has all this hype and he's capitalizing and he's becoming this huge star before our eyes, which McMillen is on the route to being a superstar, you throw him in there and get him tested, and it's like our nerves will be going nuts. We'll be like, can McMillen beat this big name guy that we know is super high level? Like, you mean to tell me that Tommy McMillen couldn't go in there and walk down Lerone Murphy and put him in trouble and melt him with pressure and stuff? I think he could. Maybe that sounds crazy. But what I've seen from McMillen, he doesn't get tired. He's going to put you in a different kind of fight than what a lot of guys are prepared for, man. You have to, I don't think people understand, like, preparing for a style like this. A relentless guy who's young and can take a shot well, is not afraid of a barn burner, and will just throw punches and bunches and not go away when he takes your best shots. It's discouraging. It's very, very discouraging. But the problem with giving him a ranked guy right now is, like, once you throw him into that deep end, there's no going back. There's no going back, because if you throw him in there and then he gets, destroyed or whatever, that's like, what do we do here? Then you got to kind of build him back to where right now the iron is hot, the slow build, right? We're kind of seeing the UFC do that with a lot of guys. I know that they were like saying, well, Josh Hokett, look at that there. It's the heavyweight division. The lighter weight classes is different. But what I'm seeing from Tommy McMillen, people are still thinking that this guy's going to get exposed. It's not going to be getting exposed. It's going to be guys capitalizing on some of the mistakes he makes. And I don't feel like we're going to see that until he gets to like mid to, high up through the weight class where he's fighting like those elite guys in this weight class. He's got a good ground game. He's got the it factor, not afraid to market himself, built this thing up. They had a little bit of a beef coming in. He got Montes angry, swinging hard early, and then was just able to walk him down and break him and get him out of there. Was going to the body well, man. Tommy Gunz, I like it. I like what I saw from this dude. He's an absolute dog and very Diaz-esque. Dude's fun to watch, man. That was incredible. Austin Bashi, Jose Miguel Delgado. So we picked, by the way, yeah, we did pick McMillen to win that one by a decision. But I should have picked late TKO. Austin Bashi, Jose Miguel Delgado. I don't know, man. I don't know. Listen, I like Delgado, and I don't want to like rip on him, but man, I don't know what it is about these Delgado fights, but he just leaves me kind of like the CLD thing. I don't know if I'm expecting more, but I'm underwhelmed in moments. Some really awful fight IQ from Delgado in this fight. Outlanding Bashi on the feet and then shooting takedowns and put himself in a deep submission to where I'm like, he's just gonna fumble and lose this fight. That was nerve-wracking to me, and that's questionable to me as to why we're seeing those lapses in judgment in the fight. I get it's a fight, anything can happen, but Austin Bashi, man, this kid's going to be back. He's going to be back, man. His striking looked better than ever in this fight. He was explosive, hurt Delgado early. He's got good wrestling, a good submission game, and the striking is getting much better. And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with being around Diego Lopez, right? Tons of power, throwing everything 100% to where if he lands, I mean, he's super explosive in this weight class. So Bashi, a guy to keep your eye on. He'll be back, man. And Delgado's really skilled. And I feel like what helped him in this fight was being in there with Andre Fili and Nathaniel Wood in 15-minute fights where he had to battle adversity of getting stung. And that's been the theme in these Jose fights is he's getting stung badly early. Then it kind of wakes him up and he battles back, right? And whenever you're training with, I believe he trains with Benson Henderson. Benson Henderson's a great coach to have in terms of giving you the cliff notes to stop a good wrestler. And that's what we saw. Delgado's takedown defense looked on point, man. It looked the best it's looked in his career because we know Bashi's really good. Look what he did to Yanis. Took his back with ease and submitted him. And Yanis has looked pretty good. Look how he looked against Marcus McGee. So the range of Delgado in this weight class, the pinpoint striking, the improved takedown defense, this was a big win for Delgado, man. It makes me nervous, man, seeing those decisions later in the fight where he did it twice, too. It's not like he did it once. He did it twice. Shot these labored, sloppy takedowns against a good guy that could grapple and has submissions, to where you had the advantage on the feet and you're stinging him up. I didn't understand it. I don't know if he was getting tired and, was just kind of just making bad choices. I don't know. So that's alarming to me and something to pay attention to moving forward as Delgado starts to kind of climb the ranks here. But no question, Delgado's good. He's a dog. He could get stung, battle back into the fight, the left hand down the middle, the knees, the kicks to the body, the timing. He's doing a good job of just touching Bashi and pulling his aggressiveness out of him to then counter him with good straight shots. It's a good performance by Delgado all across the board. And I was impressed with Bashi. His striking looked much improved. And he's only getting better. He's like, 24? So Bashi, I got to keep your eye on. And Delgado's legit, man. He's very, very good. And those performances, those fights with, experienced guys like Nathaniel Wood and Fili, I feel like I've paid off for him at this point, and that worked for him in this fight, gave him that experience. So just some questionable decision-making that has me kind of scratching my head. JPL versus Suk-Young Ko. We got this one wrong. I thought Ko would win this fight by a decision. He almost did. I was actually really surprised that all three judges gave this to JPL because I thought that this was one of those fights where it's not a robbery either way, but I thought it was close. I could have seen it going either way, and the fact that all the judges gave it to JPL, like I had Ko winning rounds 1 and 3. I thought he landed the more damaging shots. He was more accurate, right? He was landing those, he was popping the jab, and it was crazy because JPL's ground game is really good. He did a great job kind of discouraging Ko from playing the grappling game. And then we got to see Ko striking, landing some good calf kicks early, started to get the left hand going, was holding the hands low, a couple head kicks at JPL almost landed. So JPL's a dog, man. Kept moving forward, throwing big shots. His gas tank looked better in this fight. Both guys started to slow down. I just thought Ko was landing the more accurate, damaging shots, right? In round 1, I gave it to Ko. Round 3, I thought Ko edged it. But I feel like that explosiveness at the end from JPL of round 3 is what got it done for him. So either way, it was close. Not a robbery, but I was just surprised that all 3 judges gave it to JPL because I thought this fight was razor close and could have went either way. But a fun fight. And JPL's legit, man. He's a ton of fun to watch. Levi Rodrigues versus Felipe Franco. This was interesting because Levi Rodrigues, it looked like he was going to knock out Franco early. And then Felipe was like, nah, man, I'm going to be a little bit more technical on the feet, kind of bring you into my game, which was getting to the takedowns. And in hindsight, I should have seen that coming. So we got this pick wrong. I thought Levi was going to knock out Franco early, which he almost did. But his grappling got exposed. And also, whenever you could take a fast starter like Rodrigues and you can extend the fight and they don't get that early finish, we just see a lot of these guys, especially when they're early in the UFC, they just kind of break. And that's what happened, right? And Felipe Franco, training with Jaelton Almeida, I believe, right? He's a lot more entertaining. He's got power, looks for a finish, incorporates the ground game. He's got good submissions. And the minute that he got Rodrigues down in the second round, I'm like, this thing's over. And I know a little bit of maybe an early stoppage per se, but I didn't hate the stoppage considering I didn't think that Rodrigues was going to get out of that spot. So great performance by Franco, a guy that I was questioning if he was UFC caliber or not. He went out here and put on a really, really good performance against Levi Rodrigues. And the reality is Franco's technical and he has a well-rounded game. So this was a great performance, man. Big win for Franco. Happy for the guy because I was honestly doubting him. I was kind of doubting him. So good performance by him. He impressed me. Ezra Elliot versus Damian Anderson. We picked Ezra Elliot to win this fight. And listen, Ezra Elliott's legit, dude. This was a short notice fight, and the commentary's ripping on him. He's not doing enough with this. He's not doing enough with that. He missed weight. Dude, the fight, it was a short notice fight. They took this on like a few days' notice. So shout out to both guys for taking the fight. And Damian Anderson's got a nasty ground game. Really, really good jiu-jitsu skills. And for Ezra Elliott to wrestle that hard for 15 minutes and get 12 takedowns, which I think was a record for the division, if I'm not mistaken, right? To do that over and over and over again, rinse and repeat on short notice when you missed weight, and granted, you don't like when a fighter misses weight, but if there's ever kind of an excuse, it's when the fight is on shorter notice. And Elliott's a much bigger guy than Damian Anderson, right? I think that Anderson was talking about going down a weight class. I'm not quite sure. But either way, Ezra Elliott's, he's going to be a problem, man. I know it wasn't maybe the most exciting thing. We had some interesting grappling exchanges here and there, but man, his ground game is good. And normally he finishes people with ground and pound or submission skills, right? I got, a little excited thinking maybe he could submit Anderson, but Anderson's a high-level jiu-jitsu player, man. And Anderson's dangerous on the feet. So I could see Anderson doing okay in the UFC. And Elliott's going to do very well because that wrestling onslaught, being able to wrestle that hard for 15 against a guy that's scrambling and working like Anderson, that was very impressive by Elliot on short notice. I feel like the commentators were not giving him enough credit for what he was doing. Exciting? No, not really. But appreciation for how hard that is to do on short notice and the fact that he missed weight. So good performance by Elliot. What matters most, you took the short notice debut, you went in here and got the win. That's what matters in the debut. I look for him to be more entertaining moving forward because I've seen him ground and pound people out and easily submit guys. But Anderson is no slouch, man. People will see that moving forward because I think he'll do okay in the UFC as well. Alden Coria, Stuart Nicoll. Stuart Nicoll came to ball, man. He absolutely came to ball. He was a guy that fought like his job was on the line, and maybe we see him in the UFC again, maybe we don't. I feel like he should get another chance after this fight because his striking looked better. He had a little Philly shell going on. His boxing looked pretty good. Stuart Nicoll really pushed Alden Coria, and this is what I've been saying about Coria, man. People were like, you're ripping on him too much, Jake. Alden Coria, to me, has top 15 level skill without question for the flyweight division. He just doesn't have like that much power. And he also, to me, lacks that finishing instinct. Like, there were times where he's stinging up Stuart Nicoll and he's just kind of running out of range. I'm like, dude, sit in the pocket and look to counter. You have sharper striking than Stuart Nicoll. Nicoll's loading up and winging these windmill shots where you can easily time him and slide out of range. Right? We saw Coria's ground game on display, right? I said he's got a sneaky good ground game. He's got good submission skills. He had Nicoll in some trouble, but it was going to take a lot to get Nicoll out of there in this fight, considering his back was to the wall. So Stuart Nicoll showed up. Alden Coria, he's got the skills without question. The skills without question, man. Doesn't have a ton of power in his hands. I understand it's flyweight, but that killer instinct to me at times is lacking. He's too patient. Needs to go to the body a little bit more, given his style with the boxing. I'd like to see him rip to the body and not abandon the leg kicks like he did in this fight. I expected a finish from Alden Coria, but he got the job done, and Stuart Nicoll absolutely showed up in this fight and fought his rear end off. So good fight. It was a fun one to watch. I just expected a little bit more from Coria, but he got the job done. RJ Harris, Alvin Hines. So originally I had picked Alvin Hines, right? But kind of like the Levi Rodriguez fight, I was saying I want to see what happens when these guys are on the scales because Hines, we know, was coming off the year-long suspension to where he popped. So I'm like, I want to see what he looks like on the scales. And he did not look good on the scales to me. He looked soft. The traps were shrunken down. I was like, give me RJ Harris. And I was able to find RJ Harris's YouTube channel as well after I did my prediction video. I was able to find more to this fight. So I was watching more RJ Harris film, and I'm like, you know what? This guy's got something here. So we ended up flipping the pick to RJ Harris by finish inside 2 rounds, and he ended up getting the first round knockout. And he looked nervous in there early, man. He looked a little bit nervous, like he was feeling the moment because Hines was jabbing to the body, getting some leg kicks going, and RJ Harris was just kind of sitting on the back foot. He looked like a deer in headlights. And then after a few shots landed from Hines, you saw RJ kind of wake up. He started moving forward, started landing some big shots, and that uppercut was crazy, man. That's why they call this dude the Hammer, because of the power. He literally lifted Alvin Hines off of his feet. So that was pretty impressive, man. And we got a fun prospect on the rise here in RJ Harris, right? An emotional post-fight. He's a down-to-earth guy. I like RJ Harris, man. I said I was rooting for the guy, so that's why I was like, man, I don't want to pick a guy based off of just liking him, right? So went back, watched some film a little bit more, and then saw Alvin Hines on the scale, and I'm like, we got to flip it to RJ Harris. Easy work for RJ Harris. Got the job done. Seems like we have a exciting young heavyweight now in play, repping Ohio in RJ Harris. That was a great performance. And a dude that's got this nice tank top tan going on. RJ Harris, man, that power is crazy to lift another heavyweight off of the ground like that. Insane, man. Great finish. Anna Melisano, Bandana Anna versus Diona Barbosa. We picked Barbosa to win this fight. I could have seen a submission or her just winning a control-based decision. The reality is, Barbosa has some of the slickest grappling in WMMA right now. Her transitions, her jiu-jitsu, her control. She's a very sticky grappler, very physically strong for the weight class, and someone that we've seen really, kind of fall in love with the striking recently, to where a lot of her fights have been, these striking battles. But to go out there and do what she did to Melissa Gatto in her last fight, who I think is a better overall fighter than Melisano, I had high confidence for Barbosa coming into this one, and I think Anna's actually pretty good. Like, her striking is solid. We saw that, on the Ultimate Fighter. If you go back and watch her tape, she's got technical striking, but her gaps are definitely in the grappling. Was defending early, but then Barbosa was just able to chain it together and get her down to the deck. And listen, if Barbosa's getting you down and being able to transition and flow, man, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. I think she's one of the most complete grapplers in WMMA right now. Great performance by Diona Barbosa. And shout out to Melisano for taking the opportunity on short notice. So that is my recap for UFC Fight Night OKC. Top to bottom, a really fun card. Super impressed with Dricus Du Plessis to do that to, a legend, a guy that's going to be in the Hall of Fame, one of the best champions we've had in Kamaru Usman. Very, very impressive by Dricus Du Plessis. Just might be the the best performance that we've seen from DDP to date, man. Great performance.